So this question of focusing in photography, even though it's a very obvious question, a lot of people think that focusing is difficult, and they get confused because there's so much of technicality supposed to be involved in focusing. I started from a day when I got my first camera, which didn't have any focusing. Agfa. It's just fixed lens. All you have to do is click the film, and then it used to focus. It's forever focus. But over the years, the camera's lenses have changed, and the focusing mechanism has changed quite a lot. So, two of the major focusing differences. One is called the manual focus, where you manually focus. There, you are the boss, so you change the focusing as you want. Then you have autofocus, where you allow the camera to do the focus. Now, within the autofocus, there are two types: contrast as well as phase detect. So both these focusing mechanisms are different. So in the DSLR days, we used to have this phase detect, which was quite good. And then the mirrorless came, and all the live view came in the DSLR, and that's when the contrast detection started. So all the mirrorless point and shoots and DSLR cameras in a live view, when you try to focus, or a smartphone cameras, basically any camera which doesn't use a mirror uses a contrast detection. So these are the two methods of focusing. Uh, and if you have any doubts, please raise your question so that I can direct my discussion to any one of these uh, aspects. If you have any specific scenarios where you find it difficult to focus, you can also ask that.
Krishi, can you make me moderator? If someone raises their hands, I can pull them up while you're talking.
Sure, sure, sure. Babu sir, I'll make you moderator. I think he's not responding. Anybody else? Shrikant,
Yes, sir.
I'll make you moderator. So in case you find somebody raising their hands, you can
Yeah.
just allow them to unmute.
Okay. Done. Done.
Yeah.
I'm also not moderator as of now, though you had made
Oh
me the
yeah.
co-host.
No. Sorry.
That's okay. That's okay.
I didn't realize. I made you co-host. I thought it automatically gives a power of moderation. No, it's not.
No, unfortunately, it hadn't. So I was like wondering what happened. So I'll just
Okay.
call up Babu sir also.
I called Babu sir to stage, but he's still busy. I think he's
Ah,
in
yeah.
another group also.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Anyway, if anybody has a question, or Girish, you shoot some questions so that we can. Uh,
Okay, so one of the things that I think a lot of people do have difficulty in getting the grasp of is the different types of focal points that we do have, which is the crosshair,
yeah.
the which is the central focus point, which generally in most cameras is crosshair, and the peripheral focal points. So if you could,
Yeah.
uh, uh,
I'll.
throw a
Yeah.
little light on how those two work,
Okay.
it will give a little bit of understanding on focusing.
Okay. Now, let's start with one. What really happens when you focus? When you focus, uh, your lens moves in such a way that the area where you're pointing for it to focus really becomes the sharpest point. So the DSLRs, and if you go back to the film days, we used to have this cross type of uh, prisms which used to align manually, and that used to give us a best focus. But once the DSLRs came, they started what's called a face detection. So, face detection as a technology, it's very fast. It's very good in tracking moving subjects. So, in a sports photography or a bird photography, face detection is the point to go for. And then for the face detection to really happen, behind the DSLR lens, the lens what you see, that 45-degree angle lens, behind that there is a secondary lens. So the light passes through the lens, goes back into that 45-degree mirror. I think I made a mistake. I told the 45-degree lens, it's 45-degree mirror, and behind that there is a secondary mirror, and it goes in and goes to what is called the AF sensor, which is at the bottom of the camera body. So this is where the focusing happens. Now the AF sensor depends on the camera body you purchase. Can be just a single center point. It can be a 9 point or 19 point, or in some of the higher end cameras are 56 or 72 or 109, so many points. But among all those points, the centermost point is the one which is the most sensitive. Now, how does this face detection work? Now, the lens moves forward and backward until the sensor finds it its sharpest. So that is detected by the sensor, and the sensor is made in such a way that it can be either a horizontal sensor or a vertical sensor. Now, I used to have, I don't remember the exact model, it's one of the Minolta models. It used to have only a horizontal sensor. So whenever I used to hold the camera in a portrait mode, I never used to find it focus. But in a landscape mode, it used to focus very well. So to focus, I had to turn it 90 degrees. So go into the portrait position to horizontal position, focus, and then again reorient myself to get the focusing. That is because of the face detection issue. So ideally, the centermost point is the best point as far as the face detection is concerned. Now the world has changed. Girish, you are still in DSLR, but if you move to mirrorless, you hardly find face detection there. It's only contrast detection.
That's true.
So that's why they can put the whole sensor as fully filled with focusing points. Sony comes with right from the top right to the bottom left, everywhere, any place it can detect. So that's a contrast detection. That is totally different from face detection. Now, for a face detection to happen, you need to have a vertical or a horizontal line. So that's what vertical sensor or horizontal sensors. Then there are also hybrid sensors which contain both the vertical as well as horizontal. Then even more accurate sensors which are X-shaped. So you have all the directions which are covered. So far you get a vertical sharp line on that particular point. So if you don't put the vertical lines or a edge of the subject or some stick or somewhere where the focus can go and catch hold of that particular point, then you don't get the focusing. For example, if you point it to sky and hope that it will focus, it won't. Another the common examples I give is trying to focus for an egg. Put an egg on the table and try to focus. If your egg is clean, not dirty, well polished, then you won't able to focus at all using face detection. Whereas for the contrast detection, we will come to what is contrast detection and what's the pros and cons of contrast detection later. But this is what face detection is. So ideally, when you are trying to focus on a subject, make sure that there is a line. So if it is a human face, you can go for the eye or the eyelashes, somewhere which are sharp, fixed, and then make sure that your center point is focused, and that's when the lens will focus it very fast, and then reposition, keeping the shutter halfway pressed. So that's the best way of focus and then recompose your image. Am I clear?
Yes,
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Now, any doubts on this? I can still elaborate. I can still, I mean, there are a lot of points which needs to be covered. So if you have any doubts, please let me know.
So Krishi, here I have a question. Like, you spoke about the example of an egg, and that's a classic example that a lot of us use when talking about focus. So, if I mean, be it either in phase detection or contrast detection, does it make a difference where we keep the focal point?
Yes. In case of face detection, it makes extremely important to keep the focus points in one of those the focusing point sensor locations. Now, these usually light up. So you can make out, in a DSLR, when you press, you have these focusing points which are lit up. So center one is the most obvious. Everybody knows about it. Then there are 9 points around it, and some of them, the higher end cameras, have got more points around them. And then you remember, the centermost point has the one which has got the most amount of face detection sensors. So if your side points are not really working well, then make sure that you turn the camera so that your focusing really happens using that center point, and then you recompose it. But if you don't want to recompose, you can use one of those points as a pointers to focus on the subject. So make sure that your subject's sharpest point where you want to focus, and if it is human being, it's eye. If it's something else, the edge of the particular subject, and that's the one which has to be in one of those face detection points. Now, coming to contrast detection, you need not be that specific, because contrast detection is almost always a area, so a large area, but your focusing point has to be in those areas. So if you go into a single point focus, which you can do, single point, 4 points, center point with 4 points which are supported, and then a zone focus or a whole area focus, you can do that. So that's in contrast detection. So when you do that, uh, your subject might get focused, but that may not be the point where you want it to be focused. So what happens is, if you point out contrast detection, sometime your eyebrow is much better contrasting than the eye. So the focus might go into a eyebrow, and if you are using a very shallow depth of field, like say f1.8 on a full frame camera, you will only get eyebrow in focus and the eye is out of focus.
Okay.
So any other doubts, questions, explanation?
I can keep on shooting questions, but I would like the
Yeah,
others also to
true.
chime in and bring the questions up. I mean,
Just lift
if
your
you have
hands.
any difficulty, so just kindly ask the questions.
Doctor, I have a question.
Hmm,
While
please.
focusing with the telefocus lens, I mean,
Yeah, telephoto
especially
lens.
after
Yeah.
200 mm, when you're at 400 mm, it's really difficult to go in the center focus. I mean,
Yes.
unless
Okay.
you are on a tripod or something like that. If you're
Hmm.
hand holding it, it's difficult, right?
Yeah, it is difficult because the as you go into larger telephoto range, your hand holding capacity is not enough, because even a very minute shake will make sure that what you're seeing in the field of view, which is very very narrow, to move up and down or sideways. So it is better to stabilize. Ideally, carrying a larger lens, it's difficult. So using a monopod will help you in that particular aspect. Again, the focusing again becomes very difficult, because you have a shallow depth of field when you go into that extreme uh, tele telephoto ranges. So above 200, for whatever distance you can go, like even 800 mm, it's just the same. Now the trick here is that most of the lenses have got focusing limiter switch, which allows you to limit either to allow only the focus close by, or between this distance and this distance, or beyond this distance. So those three switches will be there on the side of the lens barrel. You can use those switches and limit yourself so that, when you're using a tele lens, it's not hunting all the way from the very close focus to all the way to the extreme infinity and then coming back. So those limiter switches will help you, especially to limit yourself to only that much of distance. Most of the time it's about 2 meters to say 4 meter is one switch. Then between 4 meter to 8 meter is another switch, and everything beyond 8 meters to infinity, the third switch is well. So it depends on the lenses, depends on different manufacturers, but please go through your tele lenses to find out these limiter switches, and they will help you to limit yourself. If you are only shooting bird, it need not hunt all the way down close to about say 1 meter or 2 meter, which is good for macro. Or if you are doing only macro, then you limit yourself only for the macro. So that's the easiest way of limiting your camera's capability to focus from this point to this point.
Okay, thank you.
ಬೇರೆ ಪ್ರಶ್ನೆಗಳು? Now to expand on that earlier question Girish had asked, the autofocus points can be several. There can be what's called a single point autofocus, which you can limit it only to the center or one to the side. There also can be dynamic autofocus. That is, you select one single point, but it can track the subject as it moves. That's very good, especially if you're doing a bird in flight. Nikon has what's called a 3D tracking autofocus. So the dynamic autofocus area is there, which allows you to keep the subject as close as possible. And especially if you're shooting sports, something like football or cricket or that sort of sports, where it's following using artificial intelligent algorithms which are built in, so that when you're focusing on the ball, wherever the ball dribbles down, it will start following it. So these are all extra features which are available in some of the cameras, not all the cameras. You can utilize them.
So here, Krishi, we're talking about AFS and AFC in the Nikon system, or AI servo in Canon. So, one of the major doubts that people usually have, or confusions people have, is in what situation do we use these different modes of autofocusing?
Okay, whenever the subject is moving, then you go for either AFC in Nikon or servo autofocus in Canon, because subject is moving. But if subject is stationary, then you go for the AFS, which is a single autofocus. So if you are doing a portrait where the subject is not moving at all, then I think the single autofocus is the one which you have to go. So whatever the name these companies call it, there are both types. Like if you go under Sony, Olympus and all, they have other different names. So just make sure that if a subject is moving, then you go for the one which has got a continuous autofocus. If subject is not moving, you stick with the single autofocus, where it focuses and then stops at that particular point. It's not going to shift the autofocus unless the person moves. And then all these companies also give you the third one, where it's either if the subject is stationary, the camera will think, okay, he's stationary, then shifts to AFS. Otherwise it will go into AFC. I ask you to avoid this particular setting, because you are much more intelligent than the camera. So that's why you stick on to, if the subject is moving, for yourself, because when you're taking a portrait and when you're taking a sports, it's totally two different genres. So your subject. So that's why if a subject is not moving, stick with single autofocus points, especially on the eye, and single point autofocus. and don't go for one of those where it's a continuous autofocus or a servo autofocus, uh, that sort of different names.
Doctor, one more question I had.
Sure.
I'm not seeing any raised hands, so thought I will only ask. Uh, when we use this 9 points and we move the focus point to the edge, okay, or that is because we are not moving the camera. That's understandable. But suppose if I move the camera and use the center focus point, and then when I recompose the image, and this now because I'm recomposing, the center point is focused on where I wanted it, right? But if it is on the edge of the picture of the frame, would it still matter because the lens might distort it at that point?
Ideally, if you move in an arc, not in a straight line, when you move the subject, imagine if he was in the center and if you focused how it would be, and imagine when it's in the side. So that line should not be a straight line. If it is straight line, what happens is when you move to the center, he is not exactly in the same arc where the focus was. I'll simplify it. Okay. Wider angle lenses or a normal lens doesn't make much of a difference. But if you are using a telephoto lens, even a few millimeter difference between where the subject was focused and where you are next, when you recompose it, where the camera is now thinking that it's still in focus, may not be aligned correctly.
Yes.
So
Here,
focus and
Rishi, I think.
recompose. Yeah.
Sorry,
1 minute. 1 minute.
Here, I think. Sorry, go ahead. Finish. I'll come later.
So you have to think that whether the recomposing technique really helps or not. So in such a case, don't go for the recompose technique. Use your side focus points to pick them up. Okay, Girish, go ahead.
Yeah, Krishi, I mean, regarding this, basically, I think what really comes into play is the change in angle of the focal plane. When we recompose, if we are moving the camera in an arc, like you said, then the angle of the focal plane changes with every movement. So, if and only if you're moving the camera horizontally or vertically, wherein the focal plane remains the same, is when the technique of recomposing really works. Otherwise, it's a challenge because of the change in the angle of the focal plane.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Now, Doc, suppose you are taking a photograph of a monument or a building, a tower or something like that. And because you know that you want the focus on the tower and the rest is just the sky, so you will focus on the tower and then recompose, right? I mean, tower or some
Yeah.
monument
Okay.
which is in the sky. And that's where I feel I get into this trouble.
True. Again, the focal plane changed there. That's where what Girish told, the focal plane changed there. There are several ways of solving that. One is allow a deeper depth of field. So whatever area which you are planning to put it in, by changing the aperture or changing the lens to a wider angle lens, so that way you will get a deeper depth of field. So even though you didn't really focus it well, that area where you wanted the subject to be in sharper focus will be within that focus point. Because see, when we talk about deeper depth of field, the focus area is right at the center, and there is an area of considerable focusing in the foreground as well as in the background.
Yes.
So that's a deeper depth of field, and that can really help you out. But if you are in a portrait mode where you just want the right eye to be focused and the nose should be out of focus, and you want to have that razor sharp depth of field, that is where you should not try this focus and recompose technique.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Welcome.
No, there are a couple of raised hands. Okay.
Yes.
Ravi Shankar is asking.
Yeah, Good evening, Ravi here. I want to talk about back button focusing.
Okay.
And here again, composing and focusing and recomposing. I suppose the center point of and focusing, that 9 point is much more catches focus faster. So I prefer doing that back button focusing from the center point and refocus. That makes it very faster. You can really catch it faster. What do you think on that?
Yeah. That the second question what you put was exactly right. That's fantastic because center focus is the most sensitive out of the others. Coming to back button focus, a lot of people might get confused. What is this back button focus? Now remember, there are AF on, AFS, AFO and AE lock in most of the cameras as a back button where your thumb rests. Now the focusing usually occurs when you do a half shutter. There are two things happen. One is the metering, another is the focusing. So this is at the half shutter. So you can decouple that particular thing from the half shutter, and instead of give a focusing only to the back button. Now what happens is only when you press the back button, your camera focuses. If you don't press that back button, the camera never focuses. So this is like from shifting from autofocus to a manual focus in a camera. Remember that there is a switch on the lens which usually makes manual focus and autofocus to really shift from one to another. But using this back button focus, you are actually doing the same thing. So until you press your back button, your lens is in a manual focus.
So is back button focusing better than half press focusing? Because if you want to compose, focus and compose, you need to keep the shutter button half pressed, and then maybe you might lose out on that focus. But back button, once you press, it gets locked, so you can recompose
Yes.
and shoot that.
Yes, exactly. So that's why I always put it in back button focus and forget it. My and remember, when you do it as a back button focus, you have to also go into the menu and disconnect that shutter button. Will also be doing the focusing. So when you do that, your focusing will be exclusively with the back button focus. So once you get hang of that back button focus, you will never go for that particular shutter button doing the focusing part. So I advise those who are adventurous enough just to try it out and come up with the idea how to do a back button focus. Once you get a hang of it, you will never go the normal way of focusing. But the problem what happens is when you give your camera to somebody else, he will not know how to do the focus. So better have a plan B for such situation.
No, auto, when you put the camera on auto mode, automatically it goes to the shutter. So whenever you give to the other person, you put it on auto
Yeah,
and give
put
to
it on
him.
auto mode. Yeah. True.
And one more thing, when you press the shutter button, it also focuses, and as well as exposure also it
Yes.
also it
Metering and
measures.
focus.
Metering also it does. So if I shift to back button, the shutter still has the metering, or
Yes, shutter still have the metering. The metering part is done with the half shutter, and focusing is done by the back button focus.
the metering also has a back button locking, right? If I press that and when I half press it again, the metering will change.
Yes, it will change. It will keep on changing. So if you don't want that to happen, you have to decouple both of them from the menu part.
Okay.
Otherwise, it will change. It will change by the time you do a half shutter. The metering will take place.
In
Most
the
of the time,
Canon, you have at the back side, you have one button with a star on that. So that's called metering lock or something. So if
yes,
I press that, even after pressing that, half shutter will change the metering.
6 seconds. I think it will lock. After that, it will change.
Okay.
So if
Anybody
anybody
else?
else has questions, please raise your hands so that you can come up and ask a question.
Hello,
Hello.
Sir, just a basic thing
Yeah,
question
sure,
for me.
sure.
Sir, there are two animals in different planes. Okay.
Okay.
So when you want to focus in both the animals or both the subjects,
Hmm.
there any technique or it's we need to
Now, the only way
normal?
you can do that is, let's assume that one is close to your camera and one is far away from the
Yeah.
camera.
Yeah.
You go for a deeper depth of field. The
Okay.
depth of field should be as much as in landscape
That animal is
photography
covered.
we have a hyperlapse hyperfocal distance, so that sort of thing. So similar to that, so that you go for a very deep depth of field. So go for f11 and f16 and that sort of aperture, and focus somewhere in between those two animals, and hope for
Okay, sir.
your
Yeah.
focus points, the depth of focus is from the foreground to the background, so that both these animals are included in the picture.
Depth of focus.
Yeah. So usually a grassland area where, let's say that you have a foreground, some other animal is grazing, and you have a background. The usual this happens, if you go to any of the savannas or Africa, that trip you will get this sort of thing. Or even in our forests, you may have deer which is grazing very close to uh, the the
Camera.
van. Yeah, and there is a tiger somewhere behind. But unfortunate in most of our forests is that if you go into f11, you have to keep your ISO somewhere at about 6400 or something.
Correct. Yeah.
So it's
Got
a
it, sir.
tough,
Yeah.
tough, tough choice.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Welcome.
Chief, while we are at the wildlife,
Okay.
irrespective of any wildlife, while you take it, there is one blade of grass which spoils the whole frame. I mean, it's not visible while you take the photograph. Maybe
Yeah.
it's the excitement which. I mean, the blade of grass is not seen, but after when you check the, I mean, you have to go to Photoshop, or is there a way to avoid it?
Uh, if you go for a shallower depth of field, which unfortunately most of these zoom lenses don't have. See, the problem with the zoom lenses, which is say 100 or 400, you are at 400 all the time, and you will be at f6.8 or 6.3, whatever it is. So
True.
that is the depth of field which gives you that grass blade in the foreground. But let's say that you had say 400 mm f2.8 in your hand, uh, even the eyelashes of that tiger will not be in focus. Only the tiger will be focused. So the blade of grass will just vanish because it's not in focus. So it's a lens problem. So that's why a lot of wildlife photographers prefer to go for uh, 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 wider wider aperture lenses and longer lenses. So if you go for a prime
Okay.
lens, you will get a much better picture using that technique.
Okay. Thank you.
In case you get a blade of grass, all you have to do is go to Photoshop and remove the blade of grass. Photoshop has got a good grass cutter there.
Yes.
We can call that grass filter, Rishi.
Grass filter.
It filters out the grass.
Even Lightroom will do that. So if you're afraid to go to Photoshop. Any other raised hands?
Yes.
You can ask any questions
We
related to focusing, not just focusing as such, or your difficulties, so that you won't face these problems again.
someone raised their hands. I let them in, but it looks like the person, that Darshan, still there in the room. Darshan, looks like the person dropped out.
Okay, no problem.
Okay.
Can I get?
So anybody else has a question, please raise your hand so that we can bring you up. So, meanwhile, Krishi, the other typical problem a lot of photographers face is focusing in low light conditions. Is there any specific approach that we can take to nail the focus in low light conditions?
Yeah, that's because the camera senses, especially if it is a face detect type of sensor, it requires certain amount of light to do this face detection. So in a low light situation, face detection really fails. So either you have to add artificial light. So suppose you have a headlamp, and if you're not disturbing the situation, you can use those headlamps. Or if you find some sharper but brighter solution somewhere else, you can focus on that. So people who do astrophotography usually focus on some light poles which are far away before they get in, and that's sort of a way of focusing it, and then shift to a manual focus so that your focus doesn't disturb. But if you are trying to do a low light, say a portrait photography or even a wildlife photography, where you are trying to get that particular animal in the very low light in focus, you will find it very difficult. So one advantage you can get is by using a wide aperture lenses. So the lenses which are like f2.8 or wider, they'll give you a fantastic this thing. But unfortunately, most of the wildlife lenses are zoom lenses, and getting that 2.8, it's either heavy or it's too expensive. So the other option is to use external light and light it up till you get the focus, till you nail the focus, and then you can use it to switch off the light. And if it's a model, you can always give a torch in the hand of the model itself, ask her to light back to you. It can be a very mild torch. And there are focusing aids. For example, uh, the red light which comes when you try to focus using it's a sort of a focusing aid. It's not an active infrared beam which is basically going, but it is lighting the low light situation so that the camera can focus it well. So these are the few methods. There are still some more, but these are the very common ones which people can use to basically light up the scene so that they can focus better. And if you are using a flash, the flash also has that focusing assist beam, which will help you to focus in the low light. And those who are using mirrorless, the live view mode or the mirrorless mode are equally same. Most of the time when you are shooting in the dark situation, your camera also goes darker. That is because live view is set to show the exposure compensation. So whatever aperture you are using in the lens, when it shut down to that particular aperture, what will be the total look of the image? So whether it's going to be underexposed, whether it's going to be overexposed. But unfortunately, let's say that you are in a darker room and you want to focus on the bride and the groom, or in my case, most of the time I shoot at about 6:30 to 7 o'clock in the field. There hardly that insect is totally dark, and I want to focus on that particular insect. I need to have that live view or compensation switched off. So if you're buying a mirrorless camera, make sure that you find a method either in the menu or a shortcut button where you can switch off that particular live view emulation, so that even though the light is very low, it will show, it will exaggerate the light. What basically it does is it just pushes up the ISO till you click the shutter. So it will give you a very grainy picture, but you can see the situation, so you can focus. Any more hands?
Krishi, the other
Yeah, tell me.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So, okay, the one of the other situations that I can think of where focusing can be a challenge is when you're shooting a group of people. If they are staggered and not in one particular line, how does one try to get good focus on all the people in the group?
Yeah, this is a challenge in a DSLR because DSLR, um, when you're looking through the viewfinder, you won't have any that live view composition. So best is to shift to a live view here, and the live view mode in the DSLR allows you to do the same trick what mirrorless cameras do. They make sure that your uh, the aperture is fully open and brighten up the scene and show you. This is one way of doing it. The second way of doing it is adding extra light temporarily so that you can focus everybody. But remember, if when people are staggered, you need to have a deeper depth of field. So that means you need to go for an aperture which is like f8 or f11 and that sort of thing to get the everybody in focus. Slower shutter speed doesn't work because people don't stand like a statue. So you need to have other lights to compensate, either as strobes or flashes. So you have to think of those things, but that's out of the question. But focusing part, you have to think of deeper depth of field. So you'll be focusing um, almost in the middle of the whole group, not the front person, not the person behind. So almost in the middle of the group.
So one of the things that a photographer will have to remember is using a greater depth of field.
Yes.
So it's a trade-off between having an open aperture to allow more light versus going for a closed aperture which gives you more depth of field in these
Exactly.
situations, which is where I think what you mentioned in terms of using extra lights, either strobes or flashes, really plays a vital role.
Vital, yeah. You can bare minimum you need two lights which are kept slightly far away so that they cover a larger distance, and don't keep the lights very close thinking that you're going to light them up much more. And that's a trick that is going through what's called the inverse square law. So I think one day we can cover inverse square law and its implications in photography. But I think it's explaining that in just explanation is probably much more difficult.
I mean, it's basically a whole workshop by itself.
Yeah,
That particular aspect of
true.
so. Digi sir, please come up if you have any questions. You can, or if you have any thoughts on focusing, you can share with us. I had sent you an invite. Please come up, and others also. Please raise your hands so that we can pull you up for you to ask your questions.
Hi. Nothing,
Hi, Digi.
nothing as such, Girish. I'm just listening, and so I'm just here. I'm here more to listen. Nothing, no specific doubt as of now. And
Focus
Sure,
on
sure.
thank you so
questions.
much. I'm trying to relearn everything, Kashi. I've not been touching my camera for some time now. I'm reworking on my skills
Adding
again.
to Girish's query, uh, there is a term called hunting. Hunting is a point where the camera doesn't get the focus correctly, so it goes forward and backward and keeps on trying. So that's a sign. You have to make sure that your camera either cannot find a sharp point, or it cannot find enough light to focus on a sharp point. So you can take a torch or use your mobile phone. Just use a light of the mobile phone just to get the focus right, and then you can use a flash to take a photograph. So these are the few tricks you can do in a low light situation when you find your camera is hunting. Hunting is not as though it's going with the gun and shooting somebody. It's just hunting forward and backward. It is called autofocus hunting.
Okay, Krishi, when we talk about hunting, basically, a spin-off question is: does this happen both in phase detection and contrast
Yeah,
detection, or
yeah,
is it
yeah.
specific to one particular kind
See,
of?
if you really see, every face detection is a hunting until it finds the final point. So in a face detection, what happens is it goes out of focus first, and then it comes back when it finds the out of focus is too much, comes back to a point where it overshoots the sharp point, then goes again to out of focus. Then it realizes, okay, in between these two are a point of focus. So then it goes back again and then it nails. That's why phase detect is always slower than the contrast detect is always slower than the phase detect. So mirrorless is, even though the the companies claim that they are the sharpest, they are not very good in sports photography. They are not very good in bird photography. Now most of the newer mirrorlesses have got both the contrast detection as well as phase detection, which are built into it. So whenever there is a moving subject, it shifts to a face detection, and whenever the subject is not moving, it shifts to a contrast detection. So hunting in a real term, almost every camera does the hunting. It is the amount of distance it hunts, and that's much more important. If you remember the old point and shoot cameras we all used to have, or even the old phones, uh, not phones, point and shoots mostly, especially those long zoom point and shoots, they used to hunt a lot.
And drain most of your battery.
Drain most of the battery, and the action is lost by the time they finish hunting.
Exactly.
You
I
don't
was
get
actually going to ask you
the
about the
before
same question,
or
Krishi. How good are
during.
the mirrorless in wildlife? Anyway, you have answered that to me now.
Yeah.
I was
Now,
actually planning to
if
ask you
you
that.
go into the higher end of mirrorless, they have got both the systems, and that's where like in Sony you have that A9 series, the A1 series, or in Canon the R5, R6, and the upcoming R3, Nikon Z7 II. These are all, and Z9 which is coming. All of them are combining both the technologies, so that they are trying to do. But the first generation mirrorless, if you go, they'll be hunting like crazy, because they were only on the contrast detection. They didn't have a face detection which was that robust. That's why DSLR still are a king. So people who say that mirrorless are the new this thing, okay, fine. They may be down the say 3 to 5 years, mirrorless might be the king. But as of now, don't sell your DSLR just for the sake of a mirrorless, which everybody else has.
So I can feel I'm not too outdated for some more time.
No, you're not. Another 3 years.
You
That's
have
my
company,
prediction.
DG.
Yeah, when you're talking about hunting, one more major issue I find is when clicking a spider in its web, it
Okay.
always keeps hunting. So should I go to manual focusing, or is there any trick where I can avoid hunting while clicking a spider in the web?
In macro photography, I never use focus points. I never use autofocus. I just shift to a manual focus. And the trick is you move the camera forward and backward until you get the focus. You don't use the lens to do a focusing at all. You fix the lens to whatever point you should think of magnification at that time. So I just fix it to that particular point and move the camera forward and backward until we get a clear point of focus, especially on the eye of the insect. So that's a different technique as such. So for that, you need to have one more session of Clubhouse, or you can join one of our workshops. We are planning to do quite a few workshops in the future: macro, travel photography, and online also. So probably using Zoom or offline. And now, since the corona cases are coming down, soon somewhere in Bangalore as well as Mangalore and several other places planning to do. So that's where the creative focus really the group comes in. So if you are interested, please keep track of me. So you can check my Facebook profile. Most of the details will be there. I have a WhatsApp group. So if anyone of you want to join our creative focus group, you can join and we can have a discussion. So if there are any questions, we'll take it. Otherwise, we'll decide what will be the topic for the next week.
If anybody has any suggestion, if there is something, if there's a particular topic that you would like to know more about, or you have doubts in, please feel free to message one of us, and we will address the topic in the upcoming sessions. So please do send in your messages. And Krishi, while on the subject of focusing in macro, I also have this habit of actually, using the minimum focal distance. I try to identify by moving back and forth, and then use my manual focus also, which is a combination of what you were, just mentioning.
Yes.
So, is there any difference between those two approaches?
Okay, there is one problem with the minimum. Okay, there is a echo somewhere. There's one problem with the minimal focus distance. So that's, remember when your camera goes to that extreme of the minimal focus distance, for example, in a macro lens, it's about 6 to 7 inches from the subject. So when you go to that particular point, your field of, point of depth of field will become actually extremely low. So if you miss that minimum focus and then go little beyond that, because you are manually focusing, you don't have a confirmation points like autofocus, and you are guessing most of the time. Many a times you might find some areas are out of focus. So I usually don't go into that extreme edge of minimum focusing. I just shot slightly off. So if it's the lens what I use usually, it's Olympus 60mm lens. It can go up to 2:1. So when I go into extreme 2:1, I usually shift to another lens which can give me a better magnification like a Raynox, and put that on so that I can go. So don't go into the extreme edge of the minimum focusing distance. Come slightly beyond that and then use a depth of field using your aperture. So f8, f11. That's a maximum if you can go in a micro four thirds. In a full frame, I can go up to say 14, f14. Beyond that, the diffraction will set in.
I think that's a very key point. Not actually staying at the minimum focal distance,
Correct.
but actually stepping back a little and giving that extra little space for working on the DOF. That's a very vital point, Krishi.
Yeah, for a macro photography, that's extremely important. We can have one session on macro photography sometime later, not immediately, because I still have to find out how
Yes.
to explain all these things auditorily.
Yeah, that actually is a very big challenge here in this
Challenge, yes.
platform.
Even focusing as a topic, I didn't know how to really convey this moving forward and coming backward and all those things. It's not like a written text. Probably when I say this, you might think that you understood. That's where the recording comes in. So if you don't understand this, you can again go back and watch our recording, the full session recording. I'll be posting tonight, probably in tomorrow morning.
Sir, one more question, sir.
Sure,
Sorry.
sir. Yeah,
Sir,
definitely.
during this focus, suppose a small kingfisher, small bird, the small blue, is sitting in a small branch, and you are trying to focus that bird, but inadvertently there are big branches, that camera try to focus on the big branches instead of the other branch where the small bird is sitting. So we
Yes.
move and forth and try to focus on that. Is there any other technique to do it from the camera itself?
No, if you
I'm
that's
trying to-
that's where the hunting happens, because your camera thinks, okay, it has to focus on a tree, and you are thinking that it has to focus on the bird. So
Yeah.
one is change your angle so that the tree is not coming as the background of the bird. So the bird is separate from the tree. Then I think it should be fine. That is one method. The second method is, at that particular point you can go and override your autofocus to a manual focus, so that you fix it on the bird itself. This is where the back button focus really helps, because back button, the minute you leave the back button, your focusing stops. So it's as though you have gone in from autofocus to a manual focus. So by shifting to a back button focus and taking away that focusing from the shutter button, wildlifers almost always, wildlifers and sports photographers, these are the two who actually don't use shutter button to focus at all. They use the back button. So I think
learn that technique then.
you should learn that technique. And once you learn, when it hunts and stops at the bird, you leave your thumb away from the back button. So it is stuck at that bird itself, so it won't hunt back to the tree. So that's where the back button focus really helps.
Got it, sir. Yeah. Thank you.
Welcome.
ನಮಸ್ಕಾರ ಮುರಳೀಧರ್ ಅವರೇ, ನಿಮ್ಮ ಪ್ರಶ್ನೆ ಕೇಳಿ.
ಸರ್ ನಮಸ್ತೆ, ನಾನು ಪ್ರಿಯಾ ಮುರಳಿ ಮಾತಾಡ್ತಿರೋದು
ಹಾ.
ಪುತ್ತೂರಿಂದ.
ಹೇಳಿ ಮೇಡಮ್.
ಸರ್, ನಾವು ಪೋರ್ಟ್ರೇಟ್ ಫೋಟೋ ತೆಗೆಯುವಾಗ ಮೀಟರಿಂಗ್ ಅನ್ನು ಸಿಂಗಲ್ ಪಾಯಿಂಟ್ಗೆ ಇಟ್ಟಿರ್ತೇವೆ, ಹಾಗೆ ಫೋಕಸ್ ಕೂಡ ಅದೇ ಇರ್ತದೆ. ಕ್ಲೋಸ್ ಅಪ್ ಫೋಟೋ ತೆಗೆಯುವಾಗ f1.8 ಇಟ್ಟು ಎಲ್ಲ ತೆಗೆಯುವಾಗ ಕಣ್ಣಿಗೆ ನಾವು ಫೋಕಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೇವೆ, ಆಗ ಕಣ್ಣು ಡಾರ್ಕ್ ಇರ್ತದೆ. ಅದು TTL ಫಿಲ್ ಫ್ಲಾಶ್ ಆಗಿ ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಿರ್ತೇವೆ. ಸೊ ಫ್ಲಾಶ್ ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡೋದ್ರಿಂದ ಮೀಟರ್ ರೀಡಿಂಗ್ ಅದು ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಸ್ಕಿನ್ ಬ್ರೈಟ್ ಆಗಿ ಬರ್ತದೆ ಫೋಟೋ. ಅದೇ ನಾವು ಸ್ಕಿನ್ನಿಗೆ ಫೋಕಸ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ಕಣ್ಣಿನದು ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ವ್ಯತ್ಯಾಸ ಬರ್ತದೆ, ಇದು ಫೋಕಸಿಂಗ್ ಶಾರ್ಪ್ನೆಸ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ. ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪೋಜರ್ ಕಂಪನ್ಸೇಷನ್ ಅಡ್ಜಸ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು, ಅದಲ್ಲದೆ ಬೇರೆ ಏನಾದ್ರು ಅಡ್ಜಸ್ಟ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಉಂಟಾ ಇದಕ್ಕೆ?
ಇಲ್ಲ, ಅದರಲ್ಲಿ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪೋಜರ್ ಕಾಂಪನ್ಸೇಷನ್ನೇ ಮಾಡಬೇಕಾಗತ್ತೆ. ಯಾಕಂತ ಹೇಳಿದರೆ, ನೀವೀಗ ಫೋಕಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇರುವಂಥದ್ದು ಮತ್ತು ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪೋಜರ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇರುವಂಥದ್ದು ಇದೆರಡನ್ನು ನೀವು ಸಪ್ರೇಟ್ ಮಾಡಿದರೆ ನಿಮಗೆ ಈಸಿಲಿ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಯಾಕಂತ ಹೇಳಿದರೆ, ನಿಮಗೆ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪೋಜರ್ ನಿಜವಾಗಿ ಬೇಕಾದ್ದು ಚರ್ಮಕ್ಕೆ, ಫೋಕಸ್ ನಿಜವಾಗಿ ಬೇಕಾದ್ದು ಕಣ್ಣಿಗೆ. ಸೊ ನೀವು ಫೋಕಸ್ ಪಾಯಿಂಟ್ ಮತ್ತು ಇದನ್ನು ಎರಡನ್ನು ಒಂದೇ ಮಾಡಬೇಕಂತಿಲ್ಲ. ಸೊ ಎರಡನ್ನು ಸಪ್ರೇಟ್ ಮಾಡಲಿಕ್ಕಾಗತ್ತೆ. ಸೊ ನಿಮ್ಮ ಫೋಕಸ್ ಪಾಯಿಂಟ್ಸ್ ಯಾವ ಕ್ಯಾಮ್ರಾ ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀರಿ ನೀವು? ಕ್ಯಾನನ್, ನಿಕಾನ್? ನಿಕಾನ್, ಓಕೆ.
500.
ನಿಕಾನ್ D500, ಓಕೆ. ನನಗೆ ನಿಕಾನಿನ ಅಷ್ಟು ಇದಿಲ್ಲ. ಅದು ಕ್ಯಾನನಲ್ಲಿ ಏನಂತ ಹೇಳಿದರೆ, ಕ್ಯಾನನಲ್ಲಿ ಫೋಕಸ್ ಪಾಯಿಂಟ್ಸ್ ಬೇರೆಯೇ, ಇದು ಮೀಟ್ರಿಂಗ್ ಪಾಯಿಂಟ್ಸ್ ಬೇರೆಯೇ. ಸೊ ಮೀಟ್ರಿಂಗ್ ಯಾವಾಗಲೂ ಅದು ಸೆಂಟ್ರಿಂದ ತಗೊಳುತ್ತೆ. ನೀವು ಸಿಂಗಲ್ ಪಾಯಿಂಟ್ ಫೋಕಸ್ ಇಟ್ಟರೆ ಎಕ್ಸಾಕ್ಟ್ ಸೆಂಟ್ರ್, ಕ್ಯಾಮ್ರಾದ ಸೆಂಟ್ರಿಂದ ತಗೊಳುತ್ತೆ. ನಿಜವಾಗಿ ನೀವು ಎಲ್ಲಿ ಫೋಕಸ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದೀರಿ ಅಲ್ಲಿಂದ ತಗೊಳ್ಳೋದಿಲ್ಲ. ಕೆಲವು ಕ್ಯಾಮ್ರಾಗಳನ್ನು ಬಿಟ್ಟು, 1DX ಸೀರೀಸನ್ನು ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಉಳಿದ ಎಲ್ಲ ಕ್ಯಾನನ್ ಕ್ಯಾಮ್ರಾಗಳು ನಿಜವಾಗಿ ಸೆಂಟ್ರಲ್ ಮಾಡುತ್ತೆ. ನೀವು ಅದೇ ರೀತಿ ಮಾಡಿದರೆ ನೀವು ಮತ್ತೆ ಸಿಂಗಲ್ ಪಾಯಿಂಟ್ ಇಟ್ಬೇಡಿ. ನೀವು ಒಂದು ಇದು ಮ್ಯಾಟ್ರಿಕ್ಸ್ ಇಟ್ಟರೆ ನಿಮಗೆ ಫ್ಲ್ಯಾಶಲ್ಲಿ ಪ್ರಾಬ್ಲಮ್ ಬರುತ್ತಾ ಅಂತ ನೋಡಿ. ಮೋಸ್ಟ್ಲಿ ಬರಬಾರ್ದು. ಅಂದರೆ ಮೀಟ್ರಿಂಗ್ ನಾನು ಹೇಳ್ತಾ ಇರೋದು, ಫೋಕಸಿಂಗ್ ನೀವು ಐಗೆ ಮಾಡಿ, ಸಿಂಗಲ್ ಪಾಯಿಂಟ್ ಇಟ್ಕೊಂಡು ಐಗೆ ಮಾಡಿ.
ಮ್ಯಾಟ್ರಿಕ್ಸ್ ಇಟ್ಟಾಗ ಸರ್ ಅದು ಹಿಂಬದಿ ಡಾರ್ಕ್ ಇದ್ರೆ ಅಲ್ಲಿಗೆ ತಗೊಳ್ತದೆ ಅದು?
ಅಲ್ಲ, ಮ್ಯಾಟ್ರಿಕ್ಸ್ ಮೀಟ್ರಿಂಗಿಗೆ ನಿಮಗೆ ನಿಜವಾಗಿ ನೀವು ಈ ಟೈಪಲ್ಲಿ ನೀವು ಶೂಟ್ ಮಾಡುವಾಗ ಫ್ಲ್ಯಾಶ್ ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀರಿ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದರೆ, ನೀವು ಫ್ಲ್ಯಾಶನ್ನು ಮ್ಯಾನ್ಯುವಲಲ್ಲಿ ಇಡಬೇಕಾಗತ್ತೆ. ಇದನ್ನು ಮ್ಯಾನ್ಯುವಲಲ್ಲಿಟ್ಟು ಮತ್ತು ಎಲ್ಲವನ್ನು ಮ್ಯಾನ್ಯುವಲ್ ಇಡುವಂಥದ್ದು ನಿಜವಾಗಿ ಕರೆಕ್ಟ್ ಮೆಥಡ್. ಆದರೆ ಲೈಟ್ ನಿಮಗೆ ಚೇಂಜ್ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇರುವಾಗ ನಿಮಗೆ ಆ ಡೌಟ್ ಬರ್ತಾ ಇರ್ತದೆ. ಸೊ ಮೀಟ್ರಿಂಗ್ ನೀವು ಮ್ಯಾಟ್ರಿಕ್ಸಲ್ಲಿ ಇಡ್ಬೋದು, ಫೋಕಸ್ ಮಾತ್ರ ಸಿಂಗಲ್ ಪಾಯಿಂಟ್ ಇಟ್ಬಿಡಿ.
ಮ್ಯಾನ್ಯುವಲ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಕರೆಕ್ಟ್ ಬರ್ತದೆ ಸರ್. ನಾವು
ಹೌದು, manual correct.
ಅರ್ಜೆಂಟಿಗೆ
ಯಾಕಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ- ಹೌದೌದು. ಅಲ್ಲ, ಈ ಕ್ಯಾಮ್ರಾ ಯಾವಾಗಲೂ ನಮ್ಮ ಮನಸ್ಸಿನಷ್ಟು ಸ್ಟ್ರಾಂಗ್ ಅಲ್ಲ. ನಾವು ಆಲೋಚನೆ ಮಾಡಿ ಓಕೆ ಈ ಲೈಟಿಗೆ ಇಷ್ಟು ಬರಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ಹೇಳುವಂಥ ಆ ಮ್ಯಾನ್ಯುವಲಲ್ಲಿ ಇಡ್ತೇವಲ್ಲ, ಅದೇ ಹೆಚ್ಚು ಉಪಯುಕ್ತಕರ.
ಓಕೆ ಸರ್, ಥ್ಯಾಂಕ್ ಯು.
ಓಕೆ.
Doc, Yogesh here. One question.
Tell me, Yogesh.
So, I use back button focusing, which basically means I use one of the points for focusing, and the center point is the one which meters.
Okay.
Correct? So now my question really is, if that happens, your focus point, if you're chosen one of the extreme ones, well, you're metering from the center, would your metering reading be suboptimal because the point of focus is somewhere else, and that is supposed to be the, what do you call, the most important element in the frame, whereas it is metering from somewhere else?
Yeah, it will be problematic. So that's why in such a situation, don't go for a single point metering. Go for a matrix
Okay.
metering the full frame metering. So
Okay.
assuming the metering, the light, which is light values which the camera thinks about your aperture, are taken from the whole frame, and
Okay.
the focus just happens with the single point. So focusing has to be a single point, and metering has to be either a matrix. Don't go for a
Okay.
single point unless you have both of them together.
Okay. Okay. So best is to then keep the metering on matrix all the time, because that is the most common scenario.
Most common scenario, yes. The rule is something like this. If your subject has got a different light from the background, the example
Okay.
is you have a bird sitting on the wire or a tree, and you are trying to take a photo. Background is a sky which is brighter than the bird, because the bird is getting a
Yeah.
light from the ground, whereas the
Yeah.
sky is brighter. So that is where you go
Yeah.
for a single point focus. Sorry, single point metering, center metering,
Okay.
center weighted
Spot
metering,
metering.
spot metering. Whereas
Okay.
in all other situations where the subject is getting the same light as the background, you go for a matrix metering.
Matrix or evaluative, one of those, right?
Yeah, one of those.
Or
Those are
are
both
both the
of them.
same?
It's different companies
They're
talk. They're same.
They're same.
it's
Okay.
basically the same, just a different word used by different companies. That's all.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. 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 I'm done. Thank you.
Doctor,
Okay.
I have one question.
Yes, tell me, Kumar.
So, auto fine tuning of, focus auto AF, fine tuning of autofocus. So, when we require that one?
Okay, this is a very interesting question. In fact, I missed it because nobody asked it. Okay, Madhu, thanks for this thing.
Yeah, welcome.
So in a DSLR, usually what happens is you are looking through the lens, and then there is an auto AF sensor which is at the bottom of the camera, and then you have a viewfinder which is at the top of the camera, and you focus the subject, and then you find that when you are looking through the viewfinder, everything was looking perfectly fine, and then when you click the picture comes out of focus. And this is lens dependent, because it comes nicely with my 50mm lens, but by the time I put 100mm lens, it is not coming out. All my photographs, when in a shallow depth of field, always go out of focus. That means your autofocus performance of your camera is failing. The reason is, see, the path is totally different. The path which you are looking through the viewfinder is different, because your viewfinder is on the top and the AF sensor at the bottom. So what has happened is the lens has moved a little bit from the company's original specification. So when it's focusing, it is thinking that it's focusing correctly, but actually that is not really the focus properly. So that is where the micro autofocus correction option comes. In all the DSLRs, not on the mirrorless, you have these all the top ends, not the cheaper ones. You have option to micro adjust these focus points. So the easiest way of doing it is, put your camera on a tripod, put a calendar or a newspaper on the wall, make sure that they are perfectly aligned. Then you take a photograph at very shallow depth of field, and if your newspaper or the calendar really doesn't come out correctly, then your camera has autofocus issues. So usually it is plus 10 or minus 10 micro or AF adjustment, which is possible, going through the menu and adjusting it. So what you have to do is either go plus way and then keep taking shots, finding out, zooming it out around say 200%, then find out whether it's focused or not. And if you are going in the wrong way, then you go towards the minus side. So you finally find for your lens a particular micro AF setting which will make it sure that it's perfectly focused. Now beyond 10 and beyond plus 10, beyond minus 10 also it can go. If your lens has fallen down and if your mount is loose, definitely it can go extremely bad. So then you won't be able to focus it despite changing all these micro AF points. So that is the time when to give it to service centers to get your autofocus calibrated correctly. Now remember, this is per lens. So if you have 8 lenses, you have to do that for every one of these 8 lenses. And when you buy a new lens, always try do that adjustment. Fortunately, with the mirrorless, this headache is not there. So all the mirrorless does is phase detect, not phase detect, but contrast detect. They don't have a AF sensor built into the body. So whatever the sensor sees is whatever you see. So when you can focus it correctly, it will fine. It's fine. So thank you, Madhu.
Thank you, sir.
So we have crossed our time limit. It's 9:15 already. So if there are no more questions, we'll be winding up soon. But if you do have questions, please do raise your hand.
So thank you.
Looks like we don't have any more questions, Krishi.
Yeah, I think we'll wind up. I'll decide about the topic for the next week later. So thank you everyone for attending. We had quite a good crowd. I see a lot of new faces as well as very familiar faces here. So thank you everybody. Please tell your friends. We'll have a session every week on Wednesday between 8 to 9 p.m. on some topic related to photography. So thank you everybody. Have a good night. Thank you.